She introduced me as her chauffeur at a party that I had partially funded. She said it loud enough for the entire room to hear. When I took her aside right after, she rolled her eyes and told me, "You should feel lucky I even allowed you inside." I didn't argue, didn't raise my voice. I simply grabbed my coat and walked out. 2 weeks later, her parents were standing on my doorstep. It's strange how you can share years with someone and still not truly know who they are. Or maybe the red flags were always waving, and I just chose to look the other way. Either way, what happened last month flipped everything upside down. Here's the full picture. I'm 32M, and I had been with Susan, 29F, for roughly 2 years. We met through common friends during a pub quiz night. She was stunning, self-assured, and had this magnetic energy that made people orbit around her. I fell fast and hard. Susan works in IT for a tech firm in the city center. An entry-level help desk position, nothing high-paying, but she always spoke about it as if she were the department head. I'm a general contractor with my own small company. It's not flashy, but I built it from the ground up, and I'm proud of it. The income is solid, more than solid. Some months. In the beginning, everything felt ideal. Weekends were spent wandering the city, trying new cafes and restaurants, catching obscure movies at that tiny art house cinema she adored. But in hindsight, the warning signs were there from early on. Little digs about my wardrobe, quiet smirks about my pickup truck, the fact that in 2 whole years she never once brought me around any of her coworkers. I brushed it all aside because I was head over heels. About 5 weeks ago, Susan mentioned her company was throwing a major client appreciation event at a fancy downtown hotel. She was on the planning committee and was clearly stressed about pulling it off perfectly. "Jessica from IT is bringing her boyfriend," she said one evening while glued to her phone. "He's some kind of attorney. Mind if I tag along?" I asked lightly. I could be there for moral support. She paused just a fraction too long, but I noticed. "I suppose you could come," she finally said. "It'll mostly be corporate types talking shop. Pretty dry." I offered to cover some of the costs since I knew money had been tight for her lately. Her rent had jumped, and she kept dropping hints about possibly needing to relocate. In the end, I paid for her cocktail dress for $150. The gift hamper for her manager, $200, and a bunch of other event extras. Not a huge amount, but definitely not trivial. The night finally came. I scrubbed up well, best suit I own, the one I wear for big client pitches, fresh haircut, the whole deal. Susan barely glanced at me when I picked her up in the truck. She just reminded me not to forget the hamper in the back seat as we reached the hotel. I could sense her stiffening beside me. While crossing the lobby toward the ballroom, she started walking a few steps ahead, putting deliberate space between us. "Why don't you hang out at the bar for a bit?" she suggested out of nowhere. "I need to make sure everything's set first." "I'll just come with you," I replied. "I can carry something if you need." She looked irritated but didn't push back. The ballroom was gorgeous. Open bar, elegant hors d'oeuvres, soft lighting, the works. Susan spotted her group immediately and made a beeline, with me following a step behind. "Susan, this looks incredible," said a sharp-dressed woman in black. "Who's your friend?" There was a tiny, loaded pause. I started to extend my hand when Susan jumped in. "This is Alex, my driver tonight." She laughed it off like it was hilarious. The woman's brow furrowed. She eyed my suit and clearly wasn't buying it. "Your driver?" "Yep," Susan said brightly. "He was kind enough to give me a ride. But he's actually heading out now. Aren't you, Alex?" Felt like a kick to the chest. 2 years and I was the hired help. I lightly took her arm and steered her a few feet away. "What was that?" I asked, keeping my tone low and even. She rolled her eyes, glancing back at her group. "These are important people, Alex. My career is riding on nights like this." Just go wait in the truck or something. I helped pay for half this event, I reminded her quietly. I bought that dress you're wearing. That's when the mask fully slipped. She looked at me with open disdain and said, You should be thankful I even let you step foot in here. Everything clicked into place in that second. All the tiny jabs, all the dismissive comments, they weren't stress or bad days. This was the real her. I didn't yell. I didn't cause a scene. I just nodded, said, You're absolutely right, retrieved my coat from check, and left. Drove home in total silence. By the time I walked through my door, my phone was blowing up. Missed calls, frantic texts. Where did you go? Are you seriously stranding me? Stop being so dramatic. You're embarrassing me. I ignored everyone, shut the phone off, and cracked open a beer. Strangely, I felt at peace, like I'd finally snapped out of a trance. Next morning, she was pounding on my door, eyes red but makeup flawless as always. What the hell was that last night? You just abandoned me. I had to Uber home. You introduced me as your driver, I said, leaning in the doorway, not letting her in. It was a joke. God, you're so thin-skinned. Those people matter for my career. I couldn't have them thinking I was dating, well, a contractor. I finished the sentence for her. Someone beneath you. She at least had the grace to flinch. That's not how I meant it. It's just office politics. Then came the waterworks, Oscar-worthy, on cue. She sobbed about stress, about wanting to impress her boss, promised to make it up to me, even floated a romantic weekend away. I love you, she said, cupping my face. Last night was dumb. I'm sorry. I let her believe I bought it. Invited her in, made coffee, heard her out. She left thinking we were fine. For the next few days, everything appeared normal on the surface. She was extra sweet. Constant texts, heart emojis, talking about our future. Then, roughly a week after the party, she called bubbling with excitement. Babe, my birthday's coming up soon, and I want to host a small dinner for some work people at Antonelli's, that new upscale spot. Sounds fun, I said neutrally. Thing is, I'm a bit short after the client party and everything. Would you mind helping out? You want me to cover it, would you? It's only my close colleagues. Great networking opportunity. Notice she never actually invited me. How much? About $1,200 for the private room deposit. They need a card on file. I'll put mine down, I told her. Just let me know the date. You're amazing, she squealed. I'll swing by tomorrow to grab it. Next day she came over all smiles. I handed her a card, my secondary one, not the usual. So what time should I show up that night? I asked casually. Her smile flickered. Actually, it's just work people. Super boring shop talk. You'd hate it. Got it, I said, nodding like it was no big deal. Totally understand. She kissed me quick and left on the actual night of the dinner. I called the card issuer first thing in the morning and reported that card lost. They killed it instantly and overnight a replacement. Then I put on my sharpest suit, even better than the one from her work event, and headed to Antonelli's. Instead of walking into the private room, I took a seat at the bar that had a perfect sight line through a decorative screen. They arrived around 7:30, Susan radiant in a brand new dress I'd never seen, surrounded by her crowd. I recognized the woman from the client party. There was also a guy I didn't know whose hand kept resting on Susan's lower back. She wasn't shrugging it off. She was leaning in. I ordered a scotch and enjoyed the show. They were laughing, snapping photos, toasting. Susan was glowing, completely in her element, nothing like the perpetually dissatisfied girlfriend I knew who answered tickets all day. At 9:45 the server brought the leather folder. Susan waved everyone off graciously and slid my, now dead, card across the table like a boss. It's my birthday. I insist, my treat. The server disappeared. Minutes later he returned, bent down, and spoke quietly to her. I watched her face cycle from confusion to panic. Phone out, frantic tapping. Text started hitting my phone. Alex, the card isn't working? Call me right now. This is over $1,200. I look like a complete idiot. I let her sweat. 5 increasingly desperate messages later, I finally replied. Look behind you. She whipped around, scanned the room, and when her eyes locked on me, every drop of color left her face. I finished my drink, paid the bartender, and strolled over to the private room, envelope in hand. The second I stepped in, the table went graveyard quiet. A couple people clearly recognized me. Isn't that your driver? Someone muttered. I smiled politely. Actually, I was her boyfriend for the last 2 years. I pulled out a stack of printed photos, us on vacations, holidays, date nights, and laid them across the table like evidence. I'm also the guy who paid for the dress she wore to your client event, the gift basket for the boss, and who got introduced as the help that night. You could hear a pin drop. The guy who'd been all over her suddenly needed to check his phone on the other side of the table. Susan's boss was staring daggers at the photos. Alex, let's talk outside. Susan hissed through clenched teeth, face flaming. No need, I said calmly. Just wanted to say happy birthday in person and let you know I reported that card lost yesterday morning. So it's been canceled since noon. Enjoy settling the check, everyone. You did what? She practically shrieked. I straightened my cuffs. And to circle back to your comment a couple weeks ago, no, I'm not grateful you let me in. But I am grateful you finally showed me exactly who you are. I turned to the stunned table. Have a lovely evening. She lunged and grabbed my sleeve. You can't just leave me with this bill. I looked down at her hand, then met her eyes. Let go of me. She didn't. So I leaned in close and said, very quietly, fuck off, Susan. Then I walked out. Behind me the room exploded, her yelling my name, people whispering, someone awkwardly suggesting they just split it 12 ways. That I never looked back. The next day the messages were nonstop. Pleading, bargaining, threats to ruin my name. I blocked her everywhere. She showed up at my house twice. I never opened the door. Friends' phones left tearful voicemails I deleted unheard. A week later, I got a LinkedIn message from one of her coworkers. Turns out, after the birthday disaster, her boss launched a full review. They discovered Susan had been inflating her role for months, claiming ownership of projects she barely touched. The touchy-feely guy, a senior dev she'd been secretly dating. He ghosted the second the night went south. Exactly 2 weeks after the restaurant incident, there was another knock. I opened the door to an older couple looking mortified. Susan's parents, I'd only met them once in passing. Alex, her dad said, voice heavy, may we come in? I let them inside. We sat in the living room, tension thick. Susan's mom spoke first. We came to apologize for our daughter's behavior, for all of it. Her dad nodded. She's been struggling, lost her job, had to move back in with us. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and part of me genuinely was. I never wanted her destroyed. I just wanted her gone from my life. No, her mom said firmly. Don't be sorry. She brought this on herself. We've always known Susan could be shallow. We probably fed into it too much growing up. Her father looked ashamed. We told her to find someone stable, encouraged her to use her looks while they lasted. We never imagined she'd take it this far. A lot suddenly made sense. She eventually told us the real story, her dad continued. Not at first. She tried to paint you as the villain, but we pressed until we got the truth. Her mom pulled an envelope from her purse. She's too humiliated to face you herself. This is from her. Inside was a check for $925 and a short handwritten letter. For the dress, the hamper, and everything else I took from you. I'm so sorry. Suzanne stared at the check. It was never about the money. We made her sell a bunch of her designer bags and shoes to cover it, her dad explained. It's a start. Thank you for coming, I said, folding the envelope. I appreciate it. Last I heard, she's off all social media, working on herself, back in her childhood bedroom. Me? Work is booming. I've started dating again, slowly. Had coffee last week with a woman who teaches kindergarten. When I told her I'm a contractor, she asked real questions about what I build, how the business runs, and actually listened to the answers. Sometimes I still think about that moment in the hotel ballroom when she casually labeled me the driver. It stung like hell then, but I'm thankful for it now. People reveal their true colors eventually, sometimes in grand gestures, sometimes in quiet, everyday cruelty. When they do, believe them the first time. That I just wish I'd believed her sooner. Update for anyone curious. No, she couldn't have been charged with fraud. I voluntarily handed her the card. I simply reported it lost, not stolen, so the bank just deactivated it. And yes, making her eat a $1,200 dinner bill was petty. But after 2 years of being treated like a walking wallet with a toolbox, I figured one evening of pettiness was fair payment.